I thought my white wife calling my business a hobby in front of her rich friends was the worst betrayal I'd ever face. I was wrong. 3 days later, Forbes magazine put me on their cover as the mechanic who outsmarted fleet failure. And suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of what Whitney had spent 2 years trying to tear down. Her father offered me $1 million deal that came with chains. Her ex boyfriend threatened to destroy my reputation. And my own wife, well, she made a choice that shattered everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. What happened next wasn't just revenge, it was justice served ice cold in a Lamborghini. But the real shock came when I discovered what Whitney had been planning all along and why she never saw it coming when I turned the tables on her entire family. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're from, because this story about dignity, betrayal, and the sweetest comeback you've ever heard is just getting started. The alarm buzzed at 5 a.m. sharp. Darius Cole rolled out of bed without hitting snooze. Some habits die hard, and getting up early was one of the good ones his father taught him before the cancer took him. The penthouse was still dark. Whitney wouldn't be up for another 3 hours. Her world didn't start until after 8, when her assistant brought her coffee and the morning reports from her company. Darius moved quietly through the marble kitchen, making his own coffee in a regular mug. Not one of those fancy cups Whitney's mother sent from Italy, just a plain blue mug that felt right in his hands. The city looked small from up here. 40 floors down, people were already heading to work. Real work, the kind where you got your hands dirty and fixed things that mattered. Darius grabbed his work clothes from the hall closet. Whitney had tried to get him to use the guest bedroom as a dressing room. It's more organized, she'd said, but he liked keeping his work clothes separate. They smelled like diesel and honesty. The shop was a 20-minute drive in early morning traffic. Cole's diesel repair sat between a donut shop and a check cashing place. Not fancy, but it was real. The kind of place where truckers knew they'd get fair prices and straight talk. "Morning, D," called Eli Martinez as Darius walked through the bay doors. Eli had been his best friend since trade school. Short, stocky, with hands that could fix anything and a laugh that made the worst days better. "You're here early," Darius said, checking the workboard. "Mrs. Patterson's bus needs new brakes before she takes those kids to the field trip tomorrow. Figured I'd get started." That was Eli, always thinking about the people behind the repairs. It's why their customers trusted them. They weren't just fixing machines, they were keeping people's lives moving. Darius looked at the schedule: 3 trucks, 2 delivery vans, and Mr. Leonard's pickup. The old man's truck had been acting up for weeks. Every time Leonard brought it in, he looked more worried. At 68, he couldn't afford to lose work. His small hauling business was all he had left after his wife passed. "I'll take Leonard's truck first," Darius said. "Something's not right, and I think I know what it is." After closing time, when the shop was quiet, Darius walked to the small garage bay he rented behind the building. This was his space, his real work. The diagnostic tool sat on the workbench. It looked simple, about the size of a smartphone with a small screen and some cables. But what it could do was special, really special. Most shops used big, expensive diagnostic machines that cost more than some people's cars. They told you what was wrong, but they didn't tell you why or how to prevent it. Darius's tool was different. It learned patterns. It could predict when a truck was about to break down, sometimes weeks before it happened. "You still working on that thing?" Eli appeared in the doorway with 2 beers. "It's almost ready." Darius took the beer gratefully. "Remember what happened to Johnson's trucking last month? 3 trucks broke down in 1 week, put him out of business." "Yeah, man." Felt bad for him. This tool could have predicted those failures, could have saved his business. Darius picked up the device, turning it over in his hands. "Small trucking companies, they live or die by their trucks. One big repair bill can ruin them. Eli nodded. He understood. They both grew up around people who worked hard and lived close to the edge, people who deserved better. Whitney know about this? Eli asked. Darius was quiet for a moment. She thinks it's a hobby. At 6:30 p.m., Darius walked into the penthouse. Whitney was in the bedroom, getting ready for dinner with her family. She stood in front of a mirror that cost more than most people made in a month, trying on different necklaces. "You're cutting it close," she said without turning around. "My father doesn't like when people are late." "I'm here," Darius said simply. He'd showered at the shop and put on clean clothes. Nice clothes, but not penthouse clothes. Whitney finally looked at him. Her eyes moved from his face to his shirt to his shoes. It was a quick look, but Darius caught it. The same look she gave when the grocery store was out of her favorite sparkling water. Disappointed, but not surprised. "Maybe try the navy shirt?" she suggested. "The one I bought you for Christmas?" "This shirt is fine, Whitney." "Of course it is." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just try not to talk about trucks tonight, okay? These people, they don't really understand blue-collar work." Darius felt something cold settle in his stomach. "What should I talk about then?" "I don't know. Sports? The weather?" Whitney was looking in the mirror again, adjusting her hair. "Just keep it light." The car ride to her parents' house was quiet. Whitney checked her phone and practiced small talk under her breath. Darius watched the city go by through tinted windows. In the shop, he was Darius Cole, the guy who could fix anything. In this car, in this world, he was Whitney's husband, the mechanic. The Harrington house wasn't really a house, it was a statement. Old money, old power, old ways of doing things. The kind of place where people spoke in quiet voices about important things that never seemed to help anybody. "Darius!" Whitney's mother, Eleanor, air kissed his cheek. "How wonderful to see you. How's the work going?" "It's going well, Mrs. Harrington. Thank you for asking." Dinner was in the dining room that could seat 20 people. Tonight there were 8, Whitney's parents, her uncle and aunt, and a couple Darius had met before, but couldn't remember. Rich people all looked the same after a while, polite smiles and careful words. "So, Darius," said Uncle Richard, cutting his steak, "Whitney tells us you're still at the repair shop. Ever think about doing something more ambitious?" Before Darius could answer, Whitney laughed, light and airy, like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. "Oh, Uncle Richard, you should see him in his little garage. He's so cute. He tinkers with these gadgets. It's basically a hobby." The table chuckled, gentle, polite laughter, the kind that said they thought it was charming that the help had interests. "Well," said the woman Darius couldn't remember, "it's nice to have hobbies. My husband collects vintage wines." "It's not exactly the same thing," Uncle Richard said, and now there was an edge to his voice. "I mean, working with your hands is fine, but a man needs real ambitions, real goals." Darius felt the words stick in his throat, his hands, like they were dirty things, like the work he did, keeping people's lives moving, keeping food on tables, keeping trucks rolling, was somehow less than moving numbers around on computers. Whitney reached over and squeezed his arm. To everyone else, it probably looked loving, but Darius felt the message: stay quiet, don't embarrass me. "Darius is very dedicated," Whitney said smoothly. "He works so hard on his little projects." Little projects. That diagnostic tool could change how small trucking companies operated, could save businesses, could help people like Mr. Leonard keep working instead of worrying about the next breakdown. But it was a hobby, a cute little thing her husband did with his hands. Gavin Reese arrived just as they were serving dessert. Whitney's father stood up like royalty had walked in. Gavin, perfect timing. Gavin was everything Darius wasn't. Tall, polished, with the kind of confidence that came from never doubting you belonged somewhere. He was Whitney's COO at her company, used to be more than that before Darius came along. Sorry I'm late, Gavin said, though he didn't sound sorry. Board meeting ran long. He kissed Whitney's cheek, lingering just a second too long, and shook hands around the table. When he got to Darius, his grip was firm and his smile was sharp. Darius, still getting your hands dirty, I see. There it was again. Hands, like they were something to be ashamed of. Every day, Darius said evenly. Gavin took the empty chair next to Whitney, close enough that their knees almost touched, close enough that when he laughed at her jokes, she could feel his breath. After dinner, Whitney found Darius in the kitchen, getting a glass of water. Why were you so quiet tonight? She asked. Darius looked at her, really looked. Her dress probably cost more than some of his customers made in a month. Her jewelry was real. Her smile was perfect. But something was missing. Something real. Whitney, why did you tell them my work was a hobby? Oh, honey, she laughed again. That same light sound from dinner. Don't be so sensitive. I was just keeping things simple. They don't need to understand every little detail of what you do. It's not a little detail. It's my life's work. Your life's work is a garage gadget? The words hit harder than Uncle Richard's comments about his hands. This was Whitney, his wife, the woman who was supposed to understand him better than anyone. Yes, he said quietly. It is. Whitney sighed like she was talking to a child. Darius, I love that you're passionate about fixing things. I really do. But you have to see how it looks. My family, our friends, they have certain expectations. Expectations about what? About success, about ambition, about what kind of life we're building together. Darius set down his water glass. What if I told you this garage gadget could help thousands of people? What if I told you it could save businesses and change how trucking companies operate? Whitney smiled the way people smile at kids who think they can fly. That's wonderful, baby. I'm sure it will help lots of people. But let's not get carried away, okay? That night, Darius lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Whitney slept beside him, peaceful and perfect, but he felt like he was drowning. In the shop, he was respected. Customers trusted him. Eli believed in him. His work mattered. But here, in this bed that cost more than most people's cars, he was just Whitney's husband, the mechanic with his cute little hobby. The next morning, Darius was at the shop by 6 more a.m. Mr. Leonard was already waiting in his truck, engine running rough. Morning, Mr. Leonard. Let me take a look. The old man climbed out slowly. His hands shook a little, not from the cold, but from worry. It's getting worse, Darius. Started making this noise yesterday. Sounds expensive. Darius popped the hood and connected his diagnostic tool. In 30 seconds, he had the answer. Your fuel injection timing is off. Easy fix. Won't cost much. Mr. Leonard's shoulders sagged with relief. You sure? Positive? See this reading here? Darius showed him the screen. Your truck's been trying to tell us what's wrong for weeks. This tool just knows how to listen. While he worked, Darius explained what was happening in simple terms. Mr. Leonard asked questions. Good questions. He wanted to understand his truck better, take better care of it. You built this thing yourself? Leonard asked, watching Darius work. Yeah, took me 2 years. That's something special, real special. Leonard was quiet for a moment. My grandson's in high school, wants to work on cars. You ever think about teaching? Before Darius could answer, another truck pulled up. A woman got out, looking stressed. Are you Darius? Tasha Brooks from Brooks Hauling. My dispatcher gave me your number. I've got 2 trucks down and drivers threatening to quit. I need help. Darius finished with Mr. Leonard's truck and turned to Tasha. She was about his age, with calloused hands and tired eyes, the kind of tired that came from carrying too much responsibility. What's the problem? Both trucks are having the same issue. Different garages are giving me different answers. One wants to rebuild the whole engine. Another says it's the transmission. I can't afford to guess wrong. Darius connected his tool to her first truck. The reading was clear. It's your cooling system. Both trucks are overheating, but it's happening slowly. The other shops probably didn't catch it because the symptoms come and go. Tasha looked skeptical. You're sure? Jake's auto said the engine was shot. I'm sure. Want me to show you? For the next 20 minutes, Darius walked Tasha through exactly what was wrong and how to fix it. He showed her the diagnostic readings, explained the warning signs, and gave her a fair quote. This tool of yours, she said finally, it's like having a crystal ball for trucks. Something like that. You ever think about selling these? I know a dozen small companies that would pay good money for something like this. Before Darius could answer, a man approached. Them. Young guy with a phone in his hand. Excuse me. I couldn't help overhearing. That was amazing. The way you explained everything so clearly. He held up his phone. I was recording for my fleet management blog. Would it be okay if I posted this? I think a lot of people could learn from it. Darius looked at the phone, then at Mr. Leonard and Tasha, people who worked hard and deserved straight answers. Sure, he said, if it helps people, go ahead. That afternoon, Darius was cleaning up when his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Voicemail. He almost deleted it without listening, but something made him press play. Hi, this is Marisol Vega from Forbes magazine. I saw a video of your diagnostic work and I'd love to talk to you about a possible feature. Please call me back at your earliest convenience. Darius played the message 3 times. Forbes, the magazine Whitney read every month, the magazine that profiled CEOs and billionaires and people who mattered. Eli was still in the shop, finishing up Mrs. Patterson's bus. You okay, Dee? You look like you've seen a ghost. Darius played the message for him. Eli almost dropped his wrench. Forbes? Like actual Forbes? Dude, that's huge. It's probably fake, spam or something. Only one way to find out. Darius stared at his phone. Whitney's voice echoed in his head. Forbes doesn't call mechanics. But what if they did? That evening, Darius sat in the penthouse living room, waiting for Whitney to get home. He'd called the number back. It was real. Marisol Vega was a real editor at Forbes, and she wanted to interview him tomorrow. He'd texted Whitney, got a call from Forbes magazine. They want to interview me about the diagnostic tool. Her reply came back quickly. Spam, don't waste time on it. When Whitney walked in, she was already talking on her phone, something about quarterly projections and market positioning. She waved at Darius but didn't stop talking until she was in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine. How was your day? She asked, not really listening for an answer. Whitney, I need to tell you something. That Forbes call. Oh, honey, I told you. That was just spam. These scammers are getting so sophisticated. I called them back. It's real. Whitney paused with the wineglass halfway to her lips. What do you mean? Real? I mean real. Marisol Vega, senior editor. She saw the video of me working and wants to do a feature story. Whitney set down her glass carefully. A feature story? About what? About the diagnostic tool, about how it helps small trucking companies. For a moment, Whitney just stared at him. Then she laughed. Not the polite dinner party laugh, a real laugh full of genuine amusement. Oh, Darius, that's sweet, really sweet. She walked over and kissed his cheek like he was a child who'd drawn her a picture. Sure, baby. Your little hobby is going to be in Forbes. The next morning, Darius was at the shop. At 7 a.m. sharp, Marisol Vega and a photographer were already waiting in the parking lot. Marisol was different from what he'd expected. No fancy suit, no attitude, just jeans and a sweater with a notebook in her hand and questions in her eyes. "Thank you for meeting with me," she said. "I have to be honest, when I saw that video, I watched it 5 times. What you did, the way you explained everything, it was remarkable." For the next hour, Marisol watched Darius work. She saw him with Mr. Leonard explaining the repairs in simple language. She watched him help Tasha understand her trucks better. She asked questions about his background, his training, why he'd never tried to patent his tool or start a big company. "I built it to help people," Darius said simply. "People like Mr. Leonard and Tasha. They work hard, and they deserve tools that work for them, not against them. Most people with innovation like this, they try to get rich quick. Why haven't you?" Darius thought about it. "Because getting rich quick usually means forgetting about the people who need help the most." Marisol nodded, writing in her notebook. "Can you show me exactly how the tool works? In language a regular person could understand?" For the next 20 minutes, Darius explained his diagnostic tool like he was talking to his neighbor. Clear, simple, honest. He showed Marisol how it could predict failures, save money, keep trucks running. The photographer took pictures of Darius working, his hands steady on the tool, his face focused but calm. "Darius," Marisol said finally, "I need to tell you something. This isn't going to be just a small feature story." "What do you mean?" "We want to put you on the cover." Darius felt the world stop moving. The cover of Forbes magazine. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. The mechanic who outsmarted fleet failure." That's the headline. Marisol showed him a rough mock-up on her tablet. His face, in work clothes, with the diagnostic tool in, his hands. He looked like exactly what he was, a man who'd built something important with his own hands. Darius's eyes burned. He thought about Mr. Leonard's relief when the repair was cheap, about Tasha's trucks getting back on the road, about all the small businesses that could use tools like this. He thought about Whitney calling it a hobby. "When does this come out?" he asked. "Next week. I'll email you the details." That evening, Darius walked into the penthouse with the mock-up on his phone. Whitney was on a call, pacing in the living room. When she saw him, she held up one finger. "Wait." "Yes, I understand the quarterly numbers," she was saying, "but we need to think bigger. Market expansion, brand positioning. We can't just be good. We have to be the best." Finally, she hung up. "Sorry. Crisis at work. How was your day?" Darius held out his phone. "The Forbes thing is real, Whitney. They're putting me on the cover." Whitney's expression went through several changes in the space of a heartbeat, shock, calculation, something that might have been pride. Then, quickly, control. "The cover?" she said carefully. "Next week. The mechanic who outsmarted fleet failure." Whitney looked at the mock-up for a long time. When she looked up, she was smiling, but it was the wrong kind of smile. "This is wonderful, baby. Really wonderful. But we need to be smart about this. The right photos, the right clothes. Something more professional." "Professional?" "You know what I mean. A suit, maybe? Better lighting? We want you to look successful." Darius looked at the mock-up again. In the picture, he looked like himself. Real, honest, successful in the way that mattered. "I like how I look." Whitney's smile got tighter. "Of course you do. I just think we can elevate it a little." She was already reaching for her phone, probably to text her publicist or stylist or whoever handled her image. "Whitney," Darius said, "this story isn't about you." She looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean it's about me." My work, my tool, the people I help. Right, of course. Whitney's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Oh, my father wants to see you tomorrow afternoon. He heard about the Forbes thing. Darius felt a chill run down his spine. How did he hear about it? Whitney was typing on her phone, not really paying attention. I might have mentioned it. He's excited to meet with you. His assistant will send the details. That night, Darius lay in bed thinking about the photograph. In it, he looked proud, but not arrogant, confident, but not cocky. He looked like a man who'd built something important and knew it. But tomorrow, he'd have to sit across from Mr. Harrington and pretend to be grateful for whatever help he offered. Help that would come with strings attached. Help that would come with a collar. The Harrington Club smelled like leather and old money. Darius arrived 15 minutes early, dressed simply but respectably. He'd learned long ago that showing up on time wasn't enough in Whitney's world. You had to show up early to prove you understood your place. Mr. Harrington was already waiting in a corner booth, reading the Wall Street Journal. He looked up when Darius approached, folding the paper with precise movements. Darius, punctual as always, please sit. The booth was positioned so Mr. Harrington could see the entire room while Darius had his back to most of it, a power move disguised as hospitality. Congratulations on the Forbes feature, Mr. Harrington said, signaling the waiter. Quite an accomplishment for someone in your field. Thank you, sir. Whitney tells me they're putting you on the cover. Remarkable. He paused while the waiter brought coffee. Real coffee, not the kind they served at diners. Of course, with recognition comes opportunity, and with opportunity comes responsibility. Darius waited. He'd learned that rich people like to talk in circles before getting to their point. I've been thinking about your situation, Mr. Harrington continued. A man of your talent, your newfound visibility, you'll need support, guidance, the right kind of backing. I appreciate that, Mr. Harrington, but I'm doing fine on my own. Are you? The older man leaned forward slightly. Darius, you're about to be thrust into a spotlight you're not prepared for. Interviews, opportunities, people wanting to use your name and your invention. Without the right guidance, you could find yourself taken advantage of. Mr. Harrington reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder. I'd like to propose a partnership, a mentorship, really. My company would provide you with public relations support, media training, legal protection. In return, you'd have the backing of the Harrington name. What would that involve exactly? Oh, nothing too complicated. We'd help position you properly, make sure your story is told the right way, help you make the right connections, avoid the wrong ones. Mr. Harrington smiled. Think of it as a support system. Darius didn't touch the folder. And in return, partnership, a say in how your technology develops, access to our resources and our network. The smile got warmer. Think of it as joining the family business. In a way, there it was, the leash, wrapped in a pretty bow. Mr. Harrington, I appreciate the offer, really, but I prefer to handle my own affairs. The older man's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. I see. Well, that's admirable, I suppose. Self-reliance and all that. He paused. You know, Darius, you're quite articulate. More so than I expected when Whitney first brought you around. Darius felt the familiar sting. Thank you. Of course, people in your community, they don't always have the same opportunities for refinement. It speaks well of you that you've overcome those limitations. Each word was chosen carefully. Polite enough to deny. Later, sharp enough to draw blood. I'll think about your offer, Darius said, knowing he wouldn't. Of course, take your time, though opportunities like this don't come around often. In the car afterward, Whitney was quiet until they pulled away from the club. Well, she asked, what did he offer you? A partnership, mentorship, support. Whitney's face lit up. That's wonderful. What did you tell him? I told him I'd think about it. You'd think about it? Whitney's voice went sharp. Darius, do you understand what my father just offered you? His backing? His name? His connections? I understand what he offered. Then why wouldn't you say yes immediately? Darius looked out the window at the city passing by. People heading home from real jobs, real work. Because help shouldn't come with a collar, Whitney. A collar? What are you talking about? Your father doesn't want to help me. He wants to control me. Whitney was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was cold. Don't make this about race, Darius. The words hit like a slap. I'm not making anything about race. I'm making it about respect. My family has shown you nothing but respect. Your family thinks I should be grateful they let me sit at their table. That's not true, and you know it. Is it? Darius turned to look at her. Your uncle talks about my hands like they're dirty. Your mother asks about my work like it's a disease. Your father just told me I'm articulate for someone from my community. You're being oversensitive. Am I? Or are you just not listening? They rode the rest of the way in silence. That evening, Darius was in the garage bay, trying to lose himself in work, but the conversation with Mr. Harrington kept replaying in his head. The careful words, the polite insults, the offer that was really a demand. His phone buzzed. Marisol Vega. Hi, Darius. Quick question about the photo shoot tomorrow. We want to capture you in your natural element. Would it be okay if we did it at your shop while you're actually working? Of course. Perfect. Also, I wanted to give you a heads up. Someone from your wife's family called our office today. Said they had some additional background information about you that might be helpful for the story. Darius felt his stomach drop. What kind of information? Nothing specific. They wanted to schedule a call to discuss context for your success story. I told them we prefer to get our information directly from the source. Good. I just wanted you to know. Sometimes when these stories come out, people try to insert themselves into the narrative. Family, friends, business associates, we're used to it. After he hung up, Darius sat in the quiet garage bay. Through the window, he could see the lights of the penthouse. Whitney was probably on another call, managing another crisis, controlling another situation. Tomorrow, the Forbes photographer would take pictures of him in his real world, working with his hands, solving real problems, helping real people. But Whitney's family was already trying to control the story. The next morning brought chaos. Darius arrived at the shop to find 3 news vans parked outside and a small crowd of people with phones. That's him, someone shouted as Darius got out of his truck. Cameras flashed. People called out questions. Darius, how does it feel to be on the Forbes cover? Is it true you're self-taught? What's next for your company? Eli appeared at Darius's shoulder. Back door, he muttered. They slipped around the building and entered through the rear entrance. Inside, the shop was buzzing. The other mechanics were grinning and slapping Darius on the back. Man, you're famous, called Tommy from under a truck. My wife saw the story online this morning. She says you're gonna be on TV. It's just a magazine article, Darius said. Just a magazine article? Eli laughed. Dude, it's Forbes. My grandmother knows what Forbes is. The photographer arrived an hour later, after the news vans finally left. She was professional and unobtrusive. Capturing Darius as he worked on Mr. Leonard's truck, explained a repair to Tasha, and tested his diagnostic tool. These pictures are perfect, she told him. You look exactly like what you are, a master craftsman. That afternoon, Darius's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Interview requests, business propositions, congratulations from customers. He turned it off and focused on work. But the pressure was building. He could feel it. At lunch, Whitney showed up at the shop. She'd never done that before. "Hi, baby," she said, kissing his cheek. Several customers and employees watched with interest. "I thought I'd take my famous husband to lunch." They went to a diner down the street. Nothing fancy, just good food and honest prices. Whitney looked out of place in her designer suit and jewelry. "This is exciting," she said, cutting her sandwich into precise quarters. "The phone's been ringing all morning. Interview requests, business opportunities." I turned my phone off. "Darius, you can't just ignore this. This is your moment." "My moment for what?" "To build something bigger, to expand, to become more than just a local mechanic." Darius put down his sandwich. "What's wrong with being a local mechanic?" "Nothing. Of course, nothing. I just think you could be so much more." "More than what?" Whitney hesitated. "You know what I mean." "No, I don't. Tell me." "More successful, more elevated." There was that word again. Elevated. Like where he was now wasn't high enough. "Whitney, what if I don't want to be elevated? What if I like where I am?" "You can't be serious." "Why not?" "Because," Whitney struggled for words, "because you have so much potential. You could have offices, employees, contracts with major companies. You could be running a real business instead of just fixing trucks." "Instead of just fixing trucks." Darius repeated the words slowly. "Is that what you think I do? Just fix trucks?" "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" Whitney looked around the diner nervously. "Can we not do this here?" "Do what? Talk honestly about my work?" "Darius, please, you're being difficult." "I'm being honest." That evening, Whitney found Darius in the garage bay. She'd changed out of her suit and into jeans and a sweater. She looked younger, softer, more like the woman he'd fallen in love with. "I brought Chinese food," she said, holding up bags from his favorite restaurant. "Peace offering?" They sat on crates, eating lo mein and fried rice surrounded by tools and machinery. For a few minutes, it felt normal, good even. "I'm sorry about lunch," Whitney said. "I didn't mean to sound like I don't respect what you do." "It's okay." "It's not okay. I've been thinking about what you said, about being elevated. You're right. There's nothing wrong with where you are." Darius looked at her. "Really? Really? I think I've been so caught up in my world, I forgot what attracted me to you in the first place." "What was that?" "You're real. You do work that matters. You help people." Whitney reached over and took his hand. "I'm proud of you, Darius. I should have said that first." For the first time in days, Darius felt himself relax. "Thank you." "I have a confession," Whitney said. "I don't understand your world very well. The shop, the customers, this diagnostic tool, but I want to understand better." "You do? Show me how it works. Really show me." For the next hour, Darius explained his invention, not in technical terms, but in human terms. He told Whitney about Mr. Leonard's worried face, about Tasha's struggling business, about all the small companies that could benefit from better diagnostic tools. Whitney listened, really listened. She asked good questions and seemed genuinely interested. "This could help thousands of people," she said finally. "That's the idea. No wonder Forbes wanted to feature you." Whitney was quiet for a moment. "I owe you an apology, Darius. A real one." "For what?" "For calling your work a hobby, for not taking it seriously, for—" She hesitated. "For being embarrassed by it." "Were you embarrassed?" "Sometimes, and that's terrible. I was embarrassed by something I should have been proud of." Whitney moved closer to him on the crate. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course." "I get lonely in my world. All those dinners, all those people, all that small talk about nothing important. Sometimes, I feel like I'm suffocating." Then why do you do it? Because it's expected, because it's safe, because I don't know how to be anything else. Whitney looked around the garage bay. But here, with you, I remember what it feels like to breathe. Whitney, I know I haven't been a good wife lately. I know I've made you feel small. I want to do better. That night, they stayed in the garage until almost midnight. Whitney asked more questions about his work, his customers, his dreams. She seemed genuinely interested in understanding his world. When they finally went inside, Whitney made coffee while Darius cleaned up. Darius, she called from the kitchen. Yeah? From now on, no more calling your work a hobby, I promise. Thank you. Whitney appeared in the doorway with 2 cups of coffee. I mean it. What you've built is important. What you do matters. I should have seen that from the beginning. She walked over and handed him a cup. Their fingers touched as he took it. I love you, she said simply. I love you too. Whitney reached up and touched his face. We're going to be okay, aren't we? Yeah, we're going to be okay. She kissed him then, soft and sweet and real. Not the kind of kiss she gave him at dinner parties for show. The kind of kiss that said she meant it. For the first time in weeks, Darius believed they might actually make it through this. The next morning, Darius woke up feeling lighter than he had in days. Whitney was already up, making coffee in the kitchen. She smiled when she saw him. Good morning, famous man. Good morning. She handed him a cup and kissed his cheek. I have meetings all morning, but maybe we could have lunch. Somewhere nice? I'd like that. At the shop, the atmosphere was celebratory. The Forbes article was officially live, and customers had been calling all morning to congratulate Darius. Check this out, Eli said, showing him his phone. You're trending on social media. People are sharing your story everywhere. Darius read some of the comments. Most were positive. People praising his innovation, his humility, his dedication to helping small businesses. This is wild, man, Eli continued. You're inspiring people. Around 10 a.m., Darius got a text from Marisol. Article is getting amazing response. Someone is trying to contact our editorial team about you. Claims to have concerns about your stability. Just wanted you to know. Darius stared at the text. Concerns about his stability? Who would say something like that? His phone rang. Whitney. Hi, baby, she said. I have to cancel lunch, emergency board meeting, but I wanted to tell you I saw the Forbes article online. It's beautiful. I'm so proud. Thanks. Hey, Whitney, did you or your family talk to anyone else at Forbes? What do you mean? Someone contacted them with concerns about my stability. There was a pause. That's strange. No, I haven't talked to anyone. Maybe it's just someone trying to cause trouble. You know how people get when someone successful gets attention. Yeah, maybe. Don't worry about it. The article is perfect. Everyone's talking about how brilliant you are. After they hung up, Darius tried to focus on work, but something nagged at him. Whitney's pause had lasted a beat too long. That afternoon, Tasha Brooks came by with good news. That diagnostic tool of yours saved my business, she said. Both trucks are running perfectly, and I haven't had a single breakdown since you fixed them. That's great, Tasha. More than great. Word's getting around the trucking community. I've had 5 companies ask me about you this week. Around 4 p.m., Darius noticed something strange. Whitney had texted him her schedule that morning, like she always did. According to the text, she had client meetings until 6 p.m. But when he checked her company's social media, there was a photo posted an hour ago. Whitney, Mr. Harrington, and Gavin Reese in a conference room. The caption read, Strategic Planning Session with our leadership team. Strategic planning, not a board meeting. And with Gavin. Darius tried to shake off the uneasy feeling. Maybe the social media person got the schedule wrong. Maybe it was an old photo, but he couldn't stop thinking about the pause in Whitney's voice when he'd asked about Forbes. That evening, Darius decided to surprise Whitney with dinner. He stopped by her favorite restaurant and picked up takeout, then headed to the penthouse. He was fishing for his keys when he heard voices inside, Whitney's voice, and others. He was about to knock when he heard his name. "We can't let him think he's bigger than us now." That was Gavin's voice. "The Forbes thing changes everything," came Mr. Harrington's voice. "He'll start getting ideas." "He's already getting ideas," Whitney said. "You should have seen him today. Acting like this diagnostic thing makes him some kind of visionary." Darius froze, his hand halfway to the door. "The key is control," Mr. Harrington continued. "If we can't bring him into line willingly, we'll have to apply pressure." "What kind of pressure?" Whitney asked. "Leave that to me. I have experience with people who don't understand their place." "This is delicate, Mr. H," Gavin said. "We don't want to create a PR problem. The guy's basically a folk hero. Now." "Which is exactly the problem. Folk heroes are dangerous when they start believing their own press." There was a pause. Then Whitney's voice, clearer than before. "He was my hobby first. Before Forbes, before any of this. Just a cute mechanic who didn't know any better. We can make him a hobby again." The words hit Darius like a physical blow. He stood in the hallway, holding bags of food that suddenly felt impossibly heavy. A hobby. That's all he'd ever been to her. Quietly, Darius set the bags down by the door and walked back to the elevator. In the parking garage, he sat in his truck for a long time, staring at nothing. His phone buzzed with a text from Whitney. "How was your day? Can't wait to see you tonight." Darius turned off his phone and drove away. Darius sat in his truck outside the building for 20 minutes, engine off, hands steady on the steering wheel. He could have gone back upstairs, could have confronted them, could have thrown the door open and demanded explanations. But that's what they'd expect: drama, emotion, a scene they could use against him later. Instead, he started the truck and drove to the shop. Eli's car was still in the parking lot. Darius found him in the back bay, working late on a transmission rebuild. "D, what are you doing here? Thought you'd be home celebrating the Forbes thing." Darius didn't answer right away. He just stood there, feeling the familiar comfort of the shop around him, the smell of motor oil and honest work, the sound of tools against metal, real things, true things. "I need to ask you something," Darius said finally. "Shoot. If someone tried to take this place away from you, what would you do?" Eli put down his wrench and looked at him. "What kind of question is that?" "Just answer it." "I'd protect it, whatever it took." Eli wiped his hands on a rag. "Why?" "Because that's what they're trying to do. Take everything I've built and make it theirs." "Who's they?" "Whitney, her family, that whole world." Darius looked around the bay. "They want to own me, Eli. Control my work, my story, my life. And you're gonna let them?" "No, I'm not." Eli nodded slowly. "What do you need?" For the next hour, they went through everything. Darius changed the passwords on all his accounts. He moved his prototype diagnostic tools to Eli's locked storage unit. He made copies of all his designs and research, storing them in 3 different places. "You're being smart about this," Eli said. "Protecting yourself without doing anything they can use against you." "They think they know me," Darius said. "Think they can predict how I'll react. They're wrong." When Darius got home at midnight, the penthouse was dark. Whitney had left a note on the kitchen counter. "Missed you tonight, long day, love you." He crumpled the note and threw it away. The next morning, Whitney was up early, getting ready for work. She kissed Darius goodbye like nothing had happened. "See you tonight, baby. We should celebrate your Forbes success properly." "Sure," Darius said. 20 minutes after Whitney left, Darius's phone rang. Marisol Vega. Hi, Darius. I wanted to give you another heads up. Someone called our editorial department again yesterday. This time, they identified themselves as representing your wife's family. They wanted to schedule a meeting to discuss contextualizing your story within the broader family success narrative. What did you tell them? I told them the story was about you, not your family, but I thought you should know they're persistent. Marisol, can I ask you something? The story that's running, is it true to what I told you? Absolutely. Every word. Why? Because I have a feeling some people are going to try to change it. They can try. But the story's already live, and it's your story, no one else's. At the shop, Darius worked with a new focus. Every repair, every diagnostic, every customer interaction felt more important now. This was his world, his choice. Around noon, Whitney showed up again. Twice in 2 days was unusual. Hi, honey, she said, but her smile looked forced. Can we talk? They went to the diner. Whitney ordered coffee, but didn't drink it. I've been thinking about what we discussed the other night, she said, about your diagnostic tool, the potential it has. Okay? I think you're right to be cautious about expanding too quickly, but maybe there's a middle ground. What kind of middle ground? Well, my father has connections with some major fleet management companies. He could introduce you to the right people, help you scale up properly. Darius studied her face. I thought we agreed I didn't need that kind of help. We did. I worry about you getting overwhelmed. This Forbes thing is going to bring a lot of attention, a lot of opportunities. It might be good to have experienced people helping you navigate it. People like your father. People who understand business, who know how these things work. Whitney, are you asking me to reconsider his offer? I'm asking you to think about our future, about what's best for both of us. Darius felt something cold settle in his chest. Both of us? Of course, we're married, Darius. Your success is my success. There it was, the real reason for the visit. What if I don't want to scale up? What if I want to stay exactly where I am? Whitney's mask slipped for just a moment. You can't be serious. Why not? Because you have an opportunity here. A real opportunity to become something more than. She stopped herself. More than what, Whitney? More than just a local mechanic. The words hung in the air between them. All the promises from 2 nights ago, all the understanding and support, evaporated. There's that word again, Darius said quietly. Just. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. That evening, Whitney cornered Darius in the parking lot outside the shop. She'd been calling all day, but he hadn't answered. Darius, we need to talk. I'm listening. Not here. At home. Here is fine. Whitney looked around nervously. Two of Darius's coworkers were still in the shop, and she clearly didn't want an audience. I don't understand why you're being so difficult about this. About what? About accepting help. About taking advantage of opportunities. Whitney, let me ask you something. If I take your father's deal, what happens to my diagnostic tool? What do you mean? I mean, who controls it? Who decides how it gets developed, how it gets sold, who gets to use it? Whitney hesitated. It would be a partnership. That's not what I asked. The details would be worked out. By who? By lawyers, business people, people who understand these things. People like your father. Yes, Darius nodded. And what happens to the customers I have now? People like Mr. Leonard and Tasha Brooks? They'd still be served, just differently. How differently? Whitney was getting frustrated. I don't know all the details, Darius. That's why we need professional guidance. No, Darius said calmly. That's why you need professional guidance. I already know what I want to do. Which is what? Keep doing exactly what I'm doing. Help the people who need help. Keep my work honest and my hands dirty. Whitney stared at him. You're throwing away the opportunity of a lifetime. No, I'm protecting it. That night, Darius couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Whitney's questions, her pressure to accept her father's deal. Every conversation felt like a negotiation now, not a marriage. Around 2 a.m., he got up and went to the kitchen for water. Whitney's phone was on the counter, charging. As he passed it, the screen lit up with a notification. A text from Gavin. Tomorrow's lunch meeting is confirmed. Don't worry, we'll figure this out. Darius stared at the phone. Whitney had told him she had client meetings tomorrow. No mention of lunch with Gavin. Another text came through. He's more stubborn than we thought, but everyone has a breaking point. Darius felt his jaw clench. He took a photo of the messages with his own phone, then went back to bed. The next morning, Whitney was cheerful again. I have client meetings all day, she said, pouring coffee. Might be home late. Client meetings. Yes, the Hartford Industries account is being difficult. Darius nodded. Have a good day. At lunchtime, instead of going to the diner, Darius drove to the Harrington Club. Whitney's car was in the parking lot. So was Gavin's. He didn't go inside. He just sat in his truck and thought about lies and loyalty and what marriage was supposed to mean. That afternoon, Mr. Harrington called Darius directly. I hope you don't mind me reaching out, the older man said, but I wanted to follow up on our conversation. What about it? I'm concerned you might be making a mistake, son, turning down opportunities out of pride. It's not about pride, Mr. Harrington, isn't it? Because from where I sit, it looks like you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. Darius almost laughed. Is that what you think this is about? I think this is about a young man who's gotten a taste of success and thinks he doesn't need help anymore. Mr. Harrington, can I ask you something? Of course. If I sign your deal, what happens to my customers? The small trucking companies that can't afford big diagnostic systems? There was a pause. I'm sure provisions could be made. That's not an answer. Business is about efficiency, Darius, about reaching the largest market possible. You can't help everyone. Why not? Because it's not profitable. And that's the difference between us, Darius said. I built this tool to help people. You want to buy it to make money. There's nothing wrong with making money. No, there's not, but there's something wrong with putting money before people. That's a very naive way of looking at business. Maybe, but it's my way. Mr. Harrington's voice got colder. I hope you'll reconsider, Darius. Opportunities like this don't come around twice. Is that a threat, Mr. Harrington? It's advice from someone who's been in business longer than you've been alive. That evening, Darius worked late in the garage bay. He was running diagnostics on a new truck when he heard footsteps. Whitney appeared in the doorway. You missed dinner. I was working. I waited for you. Darius didn't look up from his diagnostic screen. How was your client meeting? Fine, productive. Good. Hartford Industries figured out their problems? Whitney was quiet for a moment. What do you mean? You said the Hartford account was being difficult, right? Yes. We worked through it. Darius finally looked at her. Whitney, do you think I'm stupid? What? No, of course not. Why would you ask that? Because you keep lying to me like I am. Whitney's face went pale. I'm not lying about anything. Darius pulled out his phone and showed her the photo of Gavin's texts. Whitney stared at the screen, her mouth opening and closing. You were at lunch with Gavin today, Darius said, planning how to handle me, how to get me to sign your father's deal. Darius, I can explain. Explain what? That you've been meeting with your ex-boyfriend to figure out how to control your husband? It's not like that. Then what is it like? Whitney sat down heavily on a crate. For a moment, she looked small and tired. My father is pressuring me, she said finally. He thinks you're going to become a liability, a PR problem for the family, because I won't sign his deal, because you're getting too much attention, too much independence. Whitney looked up at him. He's worried you'll embarrass us. How? By staying where you are, by refusing to elevate yourself. There was that word again. And what do you think? Whitney was quiet for a long time. I think you're amazing at what you do. I think your diagnostic tool could change the world. But I also think you're being stubborn about accepting help. Help or control. There's no difference if the end result is the same. Darius stared at her. You really believe that? I believe in being practical, and I believe in being free. That night, Darius found something that made his blood run cold. He'd come home late to find Whitney asleep. Her laptop was open on the kitchen counter, and the screen was still lit. An email thread was open between Whitney, her father, and Gavin. The subject line read, Managing the D situation. Darius read the thread with growing disbelief. Mr. Harrington, we need to be more aggressive. He's not responding to subtle pressure. Gavin, I can reach out to some contacts, create some professional obstacles, make him reconsider. Whitney, nothing. Illegal. But if he won't accept help willingly, Mr. Harrington, leave the details to me. I have experience with stubborn employees. The final email was from earlier that day. Whitney, he's getting suspicious. We need to move faster. Gavin, what about the Forbes editor? Can we apply pressure there? Mr. Harrington, I'm working on it. Darius took photos of the email thread, then closed the laptop carefully. In the bedroom, Whitney slept peacefully. She looked innocent in the dim light, like the woman he'd married, but that woman had never existed. This was who she really was, someone who saw him as a problem to be managed. Darius didn't go to bed. He sat in the living room until dawn, thinking about everything that had happened. The dinner party where she'd called his work a hobby, the pressure to accept her father's deal, the lies about client meetings. When Whitney woke up, Darius was dressed and ready to leave. You're up early, she said, padding to the kitchen. In her robe. Couldn't sleep. Everything okay? Darius looked at her for a long moment. Whitney, I need you to know something. What's that? I'm not investigating you anymore. I'm leaving you. The words hung in the air like smoke. Whitney's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. What did you say? I'm leaving. Today. Whitney set down her cup with shaking hands. Darius, what are you talking about? We can work through whatever this is. No, we can't. Yes, we can. We always do. This is different. Whitney's mask began to crack. Is this about the meeting with Gavin? Because I can explain. It's not about one meeting, Whitney. It's about who you are, who I am. What does that mean? It means you see me as something to be managed, controlled, fixed. That's not true. Yes, it is. You called me your hobby, Whitney. Your hobby that you can put back in its place when it gets too big. Whitney's face went through several expressions: shock, denial, calculation, and finally, anger. You're going to regret this, she said, her voice cold. Maybe, but I'll regret staying more. You think you can just walk away? Just leave? You have no idea what you're giving up. I know exactly what I'm giving up. My father won't let you just disappear. You're part of this family now, whether you like it or not. No, Darius said quietly. I'm not. He walked to the door and picked up the bag he'd packed earlier. Darius, wait. Whitney followed him, her voice breaking. We can fix this. We can make it work. How? I'll talk to my father. Tell him to back off. We can do this your way. Darius turned to look at her one last time. Whitney, the problem isn't your father. The problem is that you agree with him. That's not true. You think I should be grateful for what you've given me? You think I should be happy to be your charity project? I love you. No, you love the idea of me. The story you tell yourself about the poor, mechanic you saved. Whitney was crying now, but Darius felt nothing. He'd used up all his feeling over the past few days. I loved you too, he said, but you don't respect me, and I can't live with someone who doesn't respect me. He left the penthouse keys on the hall table and walked out. Friday morning arrived gray and cold, but Darius felt lighter than he had in months. He woke up in Eli's spare room, surrounded by boxes of his belongings and the quiet dignity of a decision well made. At 6 a.m., he stopped at Murphy's diner for coffee. The owner, Mrs. Murphy, had known him since trade school. Coffee's on the house today, she said with a grin. Got myself a celebrity customer. Just regular coffee for a regular guy. Regular guy, my foot. She poured his coffee in a to-go cup. That Forbes magazine is sitting on every table in here. Folks are proud of you, son. As Darius walked back to his truck, a middle-aged man approached him. Excuse me, are you the mechanic from the Forbes cover? Yes, sir. The man extended his hand. Jim Richardson. I run a small delivery company. Read your story this morning. He paused, studying Darius's face. You look like a man who's finally free. The words hit deeper than Jim probably meant them to. Thank you, Darius said. That means more than you know. At the shop, the atmosphere was electric. The Forbes cover story had gone live online at midnight, and Darius's phone had been buzzing nonstop. Eli met him at the door with a huge grin. Man, you need to see this, Eli said, shoving his phone at Darius. You're trending on 3 different social media platforms. People are sharing your story everywhere. Darius scrolled through the comments, hundreds of them, truckers thanking him, small business owners calling him an inspiration, mechanics saying he made them proud of their work. Listen to this one, Eli read from his own phone. This is what real innovation looks like, not some Silicon Valley startup that burns through millions, just a hardworking man solving real problems for real people. The shop phone rang constantly all morning, customers calling to congratulate Darius, business owners wanting to learn about his diagnostic tool, 3 different universities asking if he'd consider speaking to their engineering students. Mr. Leonard showed up at noon with a chocolate cake his daughter had baked. Saw the magazine this morning, the old man said, his eyes wet. Made me proud to know you, son, real proud. But around 2 p.m., the mood shifted. Whitney's Mercedes pulled into the parking lot. Want me to handle this? Eli asked. No, I've got it. Whitney got out of her car looking like she was heading to a board meeting. Designer suit, perfect hair, sunglasses despite the cloudy sky. Several of Darius's coworkers stopped what they were doing to watch. Darius, we need to talk. We said everything that needed saying. No, we didn't. Whitney's voice was tight, with control. You walked out without giving us a chance to work things out. Us? You and me. Our marriage. Darius looked at her for a long moment. Whitney, our marriage ended the moment you called me your hobby. I apologized for that. You apologized for saying it, not for thinking it. Whitney glanced around nervously at the watching mechanics. Can we please do this somewhere private? No, I'm done with private conversations that turn into public humiliations. Her mask slipped slightly. You're embarrassing me. I'm being honest. There's a difference. Darius, I know you're upset, but you can't just throw away everything we've built together. What have we built, Whitney? Really? A life, a future, a partnership. A partnership where one person makes all the decisions and the other person follows orders. Whitney's jaw tightened. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you asked my opinion about something important? When was the last time you treated my work as anything other than a cute distraction? I've supported your work. You've tolerated it. The conversation was drawing more attention. Tasha Brooks had arrived to pick up her truck and was listening from across the lot. Two customers had stopped pumping gas to watch. Whitney seemed to realize she was losing control of the situation. Fine, she said sharply. If you want to have this conversation in public, let's have it. Don't forget who opened doors for you. Don't forget who introduced you to opportunities you never would have had on your own. What opportunities? My family's connections, the social events where you met important people, the credibility that came from being associated with our name. Darius felt something cold and final settle in his chest. Whitney, I opened my own doors. With these, he held up his hands, grease still under the fingernails despite his morning shower. With work and skill and integrity, I never needed your family's credibility. You needed something. You were just a mechanic when I met you. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Around the lot, conversations stopped. Even the traffic on the street seemed to pause. Just a mechanic, Darius repeated softly. I didn't mean, yes, you did. You meant exactly that. Darius looked around at his coworkers, his customers, his world. You know what, Whitney? You're right. I am just a mechanic. I fix things that are broken. I help people when they're stuck. I solve problems with my hands and my brain and my experience. His voice was calm, but it carried across the lot. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of every truck I've fixed, every customer I've helped, every problem I've solved. I built something here, something real, something that matters to people. Whitney was staring at him like he'd become a stranger. You want to know the difference between us? Darius continued. I've never been embarrassed by what you do for a living. I've never called your work a hobby. I've never tried to change you into something more acceptable. Darius, I'm not done. You and your family, you think success means controlling other people, having power over them, making them dependent on you. He shook his head. But real success is being able to help people without needing anything back. It's solving problems because they need to be solved, not because it makes you rich. Whitney's composure finally cracked completely. You'll regret this. My father won't just let you walk away. You don't know what kind of influence he has. Then I guess we'll see, won't we? Whitney stood there for another moment, probably waiting for Darius to back down, to apologize, to remember his place. When he didn't, she turned and walked back to her car. Before getting in, she called across the lot loud enough for everyone to hear. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. No, Darius said quietly. Marrying you was the biggest mistake of my life. Leaving you is the smartest thing I've ever done. That evening, Darius's phone wouldn't stop ringing. But the calls weren't what Whitney probably expected. They were congratulations, job offers, business partnerships, universities wanting him to speak, companies wanting to license his diagnostic technology. Looks like Whitney's influence isn't what she thought it was, Eli said, looking through the messages. Her family's influence is real, Darius said. This isn't over. He was right. Saturday morning, a courier delivered a certified letter. Darius opened it in the shop's office with Eli looking over his shoulder. It was from Mr. Harrington's attorneys, a formal offer to purchase Darius's diagnostic technology for a sum that made Eli whistle. That's a lot of zeros, D. Keep reading. The terms were worse than Darius had expected. Complete ownership transfer, non-compete clauses that would prevent him from working in diagnostics for 5 years, control over how the technology was developed and marketed. At the bottom, A handwritten note from Mr. Harrington. "This is a generous offer, Darius. I hope you'll be reasonable." "Reasonable," Darius said. "Like signing away everything I've built is reasonable. You're not gonna take it, right?" Not a chance. That afternoon, Gavin Reese made his move. He appeared at the shop around 3 p.m., all smiles and expensive cologne. "Darius, heard about the Forbes cover. Congratulations." "What do you want, Gavin?" "Just wanted to check in. See how you're handling all the attention." Gavin's smile was sharp. "You know, success can be dangerous if you're not prepared for it." "Is that a threat?" "Advice from someone who understands how these things work." Gavin looked around the shop like he was surveying property he might buy. "The thing is, Darius, reputation is fragile. One wrong story, one bad rumor, and all this positive attention can turn negative very quickly." "What kind of rumor?" "Oh, you know, questions about your stability, your ability to handle pressure, whether you can be trusted with important business relationships." Gavin's smile got wider. "People talk, and when they talk to the right journalist, those conversations can become stories." Darius felt his jaw clench. "You're threatening to spread lies about me." "I'm explaining reality. You can't win against people like us, Darius. We have resources, connections, the ability to shape narratives." "People like us?" "People who understand power, how to use it, how to protect our interests." Darius looked at Gavin for a long moment. Then he started laughing. Not angry laughter, but genuine amusement. "You know what's funny, Gavin?" "What's that?" "You think you have power over me. You think you can scare me into signing that contract." "Can I?" "No, because you don't understand what real power is." Gavin's smile faltered slightly. "Enlighten me." "Real power is building something that helps people. It's solving problems that matter. It's earning respect through work, not birthright." Darius gestured around the shop. "You see a garage. I see a place where people's lives get better." "That's very touching. But idealism doesn't pay the bills. Neither does selling your soul." That evening, Darius worked late in the garage bay behind the shop. He was testing a new feature for his diagnostic tool when he heard footsteps. For a moment, he thought it might be Whitney again, but it was Marisol Vega. "I hope you don't mind me stopping by," she said. "I wanted to see your workspace, the place where you actually do the work." "Of course. Come in." Marisol looked around the small bay, taking in the workbenches, the tools, the prototype devices. "This is where you built the diagnostic tool?" "This is where I build everything. It's not much, but it's mine." "It's perfect. Exactly what I expected." Marisol turned to face him. "Darius, I need to tell you something. Someone's been calling our editorial department, making accusations." "What kind of accusations?" "That you're unstable, that you've been lying about your credentials, that your technology doesn't actually work." Marisol shook her head. "Obviously, we didn't believe any of it, but I thought you should know." "Do you know who's making the calls?" "They won't identify themselves, but they seem to have a lot of specific information about your personal life." Darius wasn't surprised. "It's my wife's family. They want me to sign a contract giving them control over my technology." "And you won't?" "I can't. If I sign that contract, everything I've built becomes theirs. The diagnostic tool, the customer relationships, the future development, all of it." Marisol nodded. "Well, for what it's worth, our story stands. The editors reviewed everything twice after the calls started coming in. Your work speaks for itself." After Marisol left, Darius found something that made his blood boil. He'd come back to the main shop to grab a tool and found the rear door slightly ajar. Inside, his workspace looked wrong. Tools moved, papers scattered, his prototype case sitting open. Nothing was missing. Nothing was broken, but someone had been through everything. Eli appeared beside him. What the hell? They're sending a message. We can reach you anywhere. Who would do this? People who think they own the world. But Darius wasn't angry. He was calm, focused. This was exactly the kind of mistake desperate people made. The next morning, Darius installed a small security camera in the garage bay. Nothing fancy, just a simple system that would record to the cloud. If someone wanted to play games, he'd make sure there was evidence. Sunday evening, Whitney called. Her voice was different, smaller, almost pleading. Darius, can we talk? Please. We're talking now. In person, just for a few minutes. Against his better judgment, Darius agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near the shop. Neutral ground. Whitney looked tired. Her perfect composure was cracked around the edges. I've been thinking about what you said, she began. Which part? About respect. About not treating your work seriously. She paused. You were right. Was I? I did think of your diagnostic work as a hobby. I did think you should be grateful for my family's opportunities. Whitney looked down at her coffee. I thought I was helping you become more than you were. And now, I think I was trying to make you into something you never wanted to be. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the city moved on with its business. Inside, two people who used to love each other tried to find words for goodbye. My father is furious, Whitney said finally. I figured. He says you embarrassed our family, that you made us look weak. And what do you say? Whitney was quiet for a long time. I say maybe we needed to be embarrassed. Whitney, I'm not asking you to come back. I know that's over. She looked up at him. I'm asking you to forgive me. Darius studied her face. The woman across from him looked more real than the Whitney he'd been married to. More honest, but also more broken. I forgive you, he said simply. Thank you. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean trusting again. I know. When they parted ways in the parking lot, Whitney didn't try to touch him or kiss him goodbye. She just said, I hope you get everything you deserve, Darius. All of it. Monday morning brought news that changed everything. Darius was at the shop early when his phone rang. An unknown number. Mr. Cole, this is Jennifer Martinez from Channel 7 News. We'd like to do a follow-up story on your Forbes feature. Are you available for an interview today? What kind of follow-up? We've been hearing some interesting rumors, people trying to discredit your work. We'd like to get your side of the story. By noon, 3 news vans were parked outside the shop. Word had spread that someone was trying to attack Darius's reputation, and the local media wanted the truth. The interviews went well. Darius spoke honestly about his work, his customers, and yes, about the pressure he'd been getting from powerful people who wanted to control his technology. But the real victory came that evening. Darius was closing up the shop when a car pulled into the parking lot. Not just any car, a clean, understated Lamborghini. Gray, not flashy, powerful but quiet. Eli whistled. Someone's got good taste. The driver got out and walked toward them. It was Marcus Webb, a successful entrepreneur Darius had met at a conference years ago. Marcus owned a company that built technology for working people. Heard you might be in the market for a real business partner, Marcus said with a grin. They talked for an hour. Marcus wasn't interested in controlling Darius's technology. He wanted to help scale it properly, make it available to more small trucking companies, keep the focus on helping people instead of maximizing profits. Your diagnostic tool could help thousands of small businesses, Marcus said, but only if it's developed and marketed by people who understand what it's for. What's the catch? No catch. Equal partnership. You keep creative control. I handle the business side. We both get rich helping people. Marcus smiled. Sound like something you'd be interested in? 3 weeks later, on a calm Tuesday morning, Darius pulled up to the shop in the gray Lamborghini. He'd bought it not to show off, but because he could, because his technology was already being licensed to 5 major fleet management companies, because his partnership with Marcus was making both of them rich while helping exactly the people Darius had always wanted to help. He parked quietly and walked into the shop like any other day. Mr. Leonard was already waiting with his truck, which was running perfectly since Darius had installed one of the new diagnostic systems. Morning, Darius. Truck's purring like a kitten thanks to that gadget of yours. That's what we built it for, Mr. Leonard. As Darius worked, he noticed a familiar Mercedes parked across the street. Whitney sat behind the wheel, wearing sunglasses, not getting out, just watching. She'd been doing this for a week now, showing up at random times, watching him work, seeing the success she'd tried to prevent. Eli noticed her too. You want me to go talk to her? No, let her watch. Around lunchtime, Whitney's car was still there. Darius walked outside and waved at her. Not mockingly, not angrily, just acknowledging her presence. Whitney started her car and drove away. That evening, Darius was working late when his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw the Lambo. Saw the news stories about your partnership. You've proved your point. It was Whitney, texting from a new number. Darius typed, Adi back. I wasn't trying to prove a point. I was trying to build something real. Her reply came quickly. I know that now. Darius stared at the message for a moment, then deleted the conversation. Some chapters needed to stay closed. Months later, Darius would drive past the penthouse building on his way to business meetings. Sometimes, he'd see Whitney on the balcony, looking down at the street, but he never looked up. He was too busy moving forward. The diagnostic tool was in trucks across the country now, saving small businesses thousands of dollars and keeping drivers on the road. Darius spoke at engineering schools, teaching students that innovation came from understanding real problems, not chasing profits. And every morning, he still showed up at the original shop, still worked with his hands, still helped customers like Mr. Leonard and Tasha Brooks, because that's what real success looked like, not power over others, but the ability to help them. Some mornings, Whitney still drove by. She'd park across the street and watch him work, not to beg him back, not to apologize again, just to remember that she was never his hobby. He was never hers either.